Hi, it's Mike and Paul here at our brand new site in Chester. We're finally in Chester, Paul.
Yeah.
We've been looking for a site in Chester for a long time now. Obviously, most of you will know it's where we're based. We've been operational here in Chester for nearly 30 years now. So we have been absolutely on the hunt for more sites in Chester to both sell and to obviously manage as well. So we are here and we're going to talk you through our brand new development, which is coming very soon. So it consists of 2 freehold blocks, as you can see behind us. There are 17 studio apartments, all ranging in sizes, aren't there?
Yep.
Some with separate kitchens. We've got one with an outdoor space as well. And then we have one bedroom apartment as well in the building. There's 9 car park spaces for it, which is unique really for Chester to get that. And we've got this beautiful open communal space as well, which we're sat in now in part of the garden area as well, which will show you some of the video footage of it as well. So really stunning development. And in terms of actual works that needs to be done to it, there's not a huge amount, is there? Which is
no, I think it's important for people to know that, you know, I mean, when we try and source a development, a project that we want to pass on, that it's right for what we are. And as you say, with Chester, well, we've done this model a lot and we've passed it on to a lot of different areas and it's always worked well for us, but with Chester we know what we're dealing with. You know, we've got lots of history with it, so it's important knowing that what we're going to supply is what is needed for the market out there. And yeah, Chester's always been very popular for us, and this certainly fits the bill for us, I'd say.
Absolutely, yeah.
So location, always very important. Why is this location suitable? Well, you're in an area of Chester that's just slightly outside the city walls. 10 minutes walk into Chester itself, close to the racecourse, close to the public transport links, but yet you have this feeling of it being very quiet. You've got the views over to the Welsh Hills over there, haven't you? So you can have a mixture of serenity and a little bit of whatever you want.
Well, and we find that in not just Chester, but other locations as well, haven't we? Where certainly from the corporate let bookings point of view, like you say, they prefer it a little bit outside of the city centre. If they're going to live here for a number of months, they probably don't want the hustle and bustle of city centre life without being too far away. And as Paul says, you know, you're 10-minute walk into the centre, 10 minutes to the famous, you know, Chester racecourse.
The River Dees, then the canals just down there, Telford's warehouse if you want to go. You've got very large industrial estate there, or retail park should I say, rather than industrial estate, so you've got everything you need in terms of shopping, any sort of retail centre. And
on top of that, you've got the university as well, which is just over a 5-minute walk, I'd say, something like that from here. So some of you may remember the Hastings development that we had, Havelock, which was hugely successful, and the model behind that, where you could sort of have the student intake and the short-term let side. This has kind of got that as well. It's got that string to its bow.
I mean, obviously from our point of view, and we'll get onto the short-term let side, it's where we're sort of focusing our aim, because we believe that's where it'll do its best, you know, in terms of returns for you guys. But it doesn't mean that, I mean, it's currently tenanted now. It doesn't mean that you can't have a standard tenant in there. In fact, I think it's had an impeccable occupancy history through its time because of its location.
And that's a big thing for us. We want to keep all rental options open. So, you know, we think it's perfectly suited for short-term lets. It's something that we've done for so long, and it will do well on that front. But as Paul mentions, it will also work well on longer-term rentals. You know, whether that's through us, you know, managing it, or through someone else, there's plenty of options there. You know, self-occupancy as well. People might want to, you know, live in these apartments that are nice. So there's a real variety of rental options with it, which makes it such a good investment opportunity.
Well, I mean, from a tourism perspective, there's a reason, even though Chester's a relatively small city, it's one of the most popular locations within the UK. And that is why it works so well on the short-term lets. Not only do you have that tourism side, but like I say, we'll go into, we have a massive corporate letting side with lots of large companies that use us regularly. We are probably the #1 supplier of short-term lets in Chester. So let's just talk a little bit about the short-term let side. As I say, this is where we feel this development will do really well. As some of you will know, we've recently rebranded our short-term let department under the name of Guests, which we'll send links and everything like that for everyone to look at. But the actual operational side has been going now for nearly 30 years. We've been doing short-term lets in Chester for longer than Airbnb
was even a
Well,
thing,
yeah,
wasn't it?
I mean, we've both been here quite a period of time, and we all sort of say 15 years. It feels like it's probably longer than that now.
Yeah,
I would
we've been
have
saying
thought.
that
Yeah,
for a few
because we did
years.
say that for a
Yeah.
few years.
But to look at some of the headline figures, I mean, our occupancy levels in Chester is 81%, which is well above industry average.
That was that was on the last year, weren't it?
Yeah,
So
the last 12 months. And interestingly, this calendar year, we're already at 65% occupancy level, and that's with 4 months still to go. So we know the absolute minimum that we can get is 65%, but realistically, we're probably going to beat that 81%.
going to exceed that, yeah.
Based on it.
Yeah.
So that's the stats. In terms of actually how we get those bookings, we thought it'd be interesting to talk you through the types of short-term let bookings, because I think people sometimes just think of the likes of Airbnb when they think of short-term lets or service accommodation. But there is so much more to it, and I think understanding that makes you understand the investment more then.
Well, I think if people look at short-term lets, if you have a look through all the benefits of short-term lets, one of the disadvantages is always management. Now, if you self-manage a property, it is hard, but you're also going to have access to just things like Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo.
Yeah.
As a company, as a recognised landlord, if you like, we get access to all the relocation agents who wouldn't deal with an individual investor, because obviously when someone's put in a corporate client of theirs into a property, they need to know they're going to get what they've been promised. And with respect to people who do it individually, they don't know that.
No.
So for years and years and years, you build up these relationships with these companies, and Michael goes through some of the large companies we deal with, and they become your tried and trusted client base at the end of the day, and one that isn't accessible to everybody else.
Yeah. So I think we looked at, we talked to the short-term let team at the office, and we feel there's sort of three main areas. There's the obvious ones, the leisure bookings, which is straightforward Airbnb, Booking.com, them type of things. And Chester screams out for that. You know, you've got the race course, which is the oldest operational race course in the world. You know, the city itself is such a popular place for people to visit, whether it's weekend trips, family trips.
I mean, the sun's out now. If you go into Chester Town Centre now, it will be absolutely heaving.
So, you know, they'll always do well, and we get good bookings from that front. Then there's the company bookings that Paul mentioned, so real large corporate companies that will book out apartments for their staff to come and stay in whilst they're doing works. And we just wanted to name, you know, some of those ones to give you an idea. We've got the likes of Nestle, HSBC, Bank of America, Airbus, which is big, is right close by Chester. We've had loads of bookings from them over the years. Vauxhall, you know, Chester again, it's a brilliant place for its transport links, because you've got Manchester on the doorstep, you've got Liverpool, North Wales, where some of these headquarters are, and they'll use it for that.
And plus you're in London within 2 hours as well, so people coming up on contracts here who live in London, it's only 2 hours on a train.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a property literally 5-minute walk from here, a 1-bed apartment, and it's booked out for a year by a company over in America. We booked it for 12 months, but pay on a nightly rate basis, and they have different staff that stays in there over the 12 months on it.
So I think it's important to point out why corporate companies use accommodation like self-contained apartments. It gives them massive flexibility. If you have someone who's working for you who you need accommodation for, whether that's a hotel, whether that's self-contained apartment, any form of accommodation, I can guarantee that if you try and book something in Chester for a month, it's impossible, because what they will do is they will constantly book up the weekends as they come. So that means that they can't accommodate a long-term booking. So with Mike's property, they've got a company. They may not use it all year. They don't know. But what they do know is they've got accommodation when they need someone coming there. And it's a much misunderstood aspect of short-term lets. The corporate side, ultimately for us, is far bigger than the tourism side. The tourism side's fillers. You know, if you get a weekend, it's great to have a little filler there. And what we do when we manage it is we make sure that we manipulate the bookings so that we can always accommodate a long-term booking, because you as an investor is always going to get a better deal out of that. But that's why corporate companies use us, because it gives them that flexibility. They don't want a 6-month AST, they don't want to pay bills, they don't want to know that if their contract ends, then they've still got to pay another few months. So for example, if the company that got Mike's all of a sudden aren't in Chester anymore, they can cancel the booking.
And that tenant might change as well, the tenancy details. So someone could leave their company, and if the tenancy's been in their name, they're in trouble then. But if they've booked it as a short-term let, they can replace that person with another employee.
Yeah.
A couple of sort of quirky ones as well. I mean, some of you maybe local to Chester will know Story House, the theatre. We get quite a lot of actors or crew that will book apartments from us.
You're not going to mention her, are you?
we had some of you may know Michelle Detrice, who was on Some of Us Do Have Them, who I'm a big fan of. Frank Spencer's sidekick. So she booked one of our apartments. I think she was in there for 3 or 4 months or something like that whilst filming was going on. But you should watch it if you haven't seen it. Paul needs to as well. So we had that. We had Lancashire Cricket Club as well, who booked it at one point. I know Graham Onions to name drop one of the cricketers who was staying in one of our apartments in Chester. And that just builds up over time. They want trusted brands, which is what we are. We've been here for a long time.
I mean, we could go on forever about who uses short-term lets, whether it's in Chester, whether it's in Wakefield, whether it's in Doncaster, but you've got people who, with buying houses now, it's difficult, it's a long process, so they may complete in a house and can't move into another one. They don't want to rent somewhere for ages, they want somewhere that's a stopgap. You have people who've got insurance claims, so unfortunately, they've had a flood or there's been a fire, then insurance companies pay for them to go in temporary accommodation, and that temporary accommodation is a short-term let apartment. So the areas are it's just so expansive, isn't it? And I think that's the most important part. Don't ever just think it goes on Airbnb and we hope for the best, because it's far more complex than that.
And speak to our team in guests. They're so experienced in there. They'll talk you through some more, in detail, those examples of the bookings. Final one is contractors. That's a big area, especially local contractors. When they were building the Story House, in fact, we had a lot of bookings from that sort of thing.
Now, contractors get given a set amount per night to stay somewhere. That's generally how it works. So what they will do is they will find out what they can get for that particular budget. And I've sort of worked out now that, with properties like this and the price we're going here, that you end up on a lower rate than places like Premier Inn. Now, where would you rather be? In a self-contained apartment where you've got the freedom, or a Premier Inn? You'd rather be in one of these. So the contractors choose these, and then when one contractor chooses it, all the rest go there.
And the staff can cook their own food, everything like that. Otherwise, you'd have to give budgets.
They're
to
not
staff
topping and tailing. So it makes a lot of sense.
So in terms of the financials of this particular project, like I say, there's a real mixture of sizes. The 17 studios are priced between 75,000 and 105,000. Again, it's on site. It might be the most expensive one. Has got the outdoor space, hasn't it? Hence why it is a little bit more on that front.
Some have self-contained kitchens, some separate kitchens, but obviously you'll see that in the plans that you get given.
And then the one-bed apartment is priced at 140,000. Both, I would say, extremely competitive to the area. We have some comparables that we can show. It's very hard to show comparables of studio apartments because they go so quickly. So price-wise, hard to show that on it.
And ironically, we know studios do very well on short-term lets.
Absolutely. The nightly rates aren't too dissimilar to that of one-bedroom apartments. In fact, some contractors actually prefer having that on it. So we've broken down the nightly rates again. Because it's Chester, because we've got so much data, we can be really accurate on these figures. So we've got some really good case studies for you to all to have a look at. But the headline marks, you are looking around about net yields of around 10 to 11% based on our current guess average, which is a new thing again that we've been able to add into this one because we've got enough data to show that.
And I think to add, that's also based on cash investment because these are cash only sales.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, absolutely. So nightly rates wise, you're looking. Our studios in Chester get around £70 a night minimum. Some of these we've put lower than that, again, just to be conservative, just with the first year in mind. Again, people will know the first year can be a little bit quieter. It gets better and better as time goes on, but Chester we think will be a different market.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, we're already up and running. We've been up and running for a number of years, so
there's no standing start with this as such, is there? We will know some of these bookings
down
already.
To us at the end of the day because we have been here so long, and like I said, we're always looking for properties here because we never have enough supply for the demand.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the developer behind the project, it's again with Gainsborough Limited, which some of you may have bought off through us before. This is our 4th project with Neil and Mark, who are the directors behind Gainsborough.
Settle 2 in Lytham now here.
Really, I'd say sort of quirky model they've got, but works extremely well both for them and the investors alike. So ultimately they will be doing a back-to-back purchase with investors. So what that means is they will complete on this building with you as investors. Investors at that point will be putting 80% down. We've mentioned this is a cash purchase, so they'll be putting 80% down with the developer, and at that point you own the property. So 80% of the price, you own the property. You could do what you want if you liked at that point and do it yourself. So you'll own it. Then once the developers have got vacant possession, you will pay another 10% of the purchase price. During that time you will still be getting the rents of the tenants that are currently in the building, so you'll still be getting income at that point. And then once vacant possession is achieved, Neil and Mark will do the works. So they'll do the refurb works, which is, as we said at the start, there's not too much work to be done. You know, new flooring, new painting, touch-ups of kitchens, bathrooms where needed. The exterior of the building's getting a brand new, facelift, getting new painting on it. So all that works will be done, and then you'll pay the final 10% at that point.
Which is perfect passing. In effect, they're putting the value on for you. That's what they're doing, you know. So it's a pretty normal model in a hands-on investor world, but we've just sort of brought that on to a passive investor world.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a real good tried and tested model. You know, if you're unsure, speak to our solicitors that we recommend speaking to. You can speak to Neil and Mark, the developers. They're very open on it. They've been doing it for a number of years, but we've just found it's a model works well. It gets new investors into this market, at really good prices on it. So yeah, that's about it. There's so much information to send, which your consultants will do. So like I say, we've got case studies, brochures, floor plans, lots of images of the site, and do have a look through. We do know it is going to be really popular. There's a lot of people who've been waiting for a project in Chester, and we've finally got that. But ask all the right questions and put yourself in a position where you may be able to have the opportunity to buy one of these.
And we look forward to looking after you. I mean, because that's the other thing, again, to bear in mind that not only are we selling this, we're managing it for you as well. So we've got a vested interest in,
the
your success is our success.
Yeah, and the management side's our longer term strategy. We're, as we've always said, we're picking these sites for properties that we can manage in the future of it. And with that, we'll bring huge opportunities to investors from a sales point of view. So yeah, please do get in touch. We'll send you all the details, and best of luck of hopefully securing one of these great properties.
Yeah, chat to you soon. Thank you.